All right, welcome in, college hockey fans in the desert Southwest. It's another edition of College Hockey Southwest Weekly, Long Distance Devils. And Paul, last time we heard you, didn't see you when you joined Tom and I doing a special show. It's been 3 weeks or more since there was last hockey played for the Sun Devils. And, at practice today, Paul, we could see that they were itching to hit somebody else.
Well, that's good because I'm itching to watch them hit somebody else. I'm so ready to go here. I don't like to change my stripes, so to speak. We spent a lot of weeks saying, I'll believe it when, I'll believe it when. And they got through that. Do you
believe it now?
What?
Do you believe it now?
Yeah, I kind of don't have a choice. But they went through that first week of the conference tournaments, and they were still in the 8 to 10 range in the pairwise. And I got a little bit better feel, as hopefully the other fans did, got a better feel for how the pairwise is going to work in the conference tournaments. And at that point, I'm like, okay, doesn't matter what happens now. Their numbers. People are going to start knocking each other off, so they are going to have fewer places to climb over ASU. And from that point on, from the second weekend of the conference tournaments, I have been itching. Probably not as much as they have been, but I'm rip-roaring and ready to go.
Well, the good news is everybody's healthy, right? The bad news is they're going to be missing Jacob Wilson, who, he's a defenseman that's been there a while. I feel bad for the kid, but what can you do? And they kind of moved on. Jacob was there watching practice today. Obviously, he can't participate or do anything like that. But
really, he can't even practice?
He was there just watching.
I didn't realize that. That seems a bit odd.
He might be able to, but coach didn't have him on the ice today. So okay. I think they were just preparing as he wasn't going to be there, like he won't.
Okay.
Interesting today. I made a couple of comments off of what I saw at practice. You'll hear them tomorrow on our College Hockey Southwest Weekly podcast. But coach was very detailed today, extremely detailed, more than I've ever seen him since his ACHA days. He was doing 5-on-3. He was doing 5-on-4. He was doing 5-on-5. He brought in a referee, and he actually sat up, and him and the other coaches sat up in the press box and watched as the practice was going on. They did 6-on-5. They did face-offs. They did every detail. So I asked him afterwards when I visited with him, I said, this is about as detailed as you've been. He goes, hey, listen, I don't want there to be any stone unturned. I don't want them to be surprised by anything that happens this weekend. So then I said, interesting. And I said, so talk to me about this weekend. What's it going to be like for you guys playing the very last game of the regional tournament? For folks that don't know or have been under a rock for a little while, but it's the Midwest Regional, Allentown, Pennsylvania. You're definitely going to be there. I'm hoping to be there. Minnesota Duluth, the number 1 seed, taking on Bowling Green, the number 4 seed in the region. They'll do battle first, and then the very last game of the regional tournament of any region will be Quinnipiac, the number 2 seed, and ASU, the number 3 seed. I'm working on a tail of the tape. Paul, and I'll tell you, as you already know, these teams are pretty darn similar all the way down to the head coaches.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I was going to say that to you. As I'm looking at both teams, Quinnipiac has a slight edge to me in the fact that a few of their players have played in an NCAA tournament. Their best player, at least their best skater, Chase Prisky, who was a Hobie Baker candidate. He was a freshman. They made the last time they made the tournament. They beat Boston College and lost to North Dakota in the second round. So they have a couple of players with a little bit of NCAA experience, and obviously ASU doesn't. But I don't know if there's enough of those players where it's going to make a difference. But these teams really are mirror images of each other. They have a great goalie.
Yep.
A very good to great defenseman.
Yep.
And one forward that basically is head and shoulders in terms of scoring above the rest of the team. And they're very balanced. ASU is very balanced, and they lost to Brown in their conference tournament almost 3 weeks, I guess, by the time they end up playing.
Right.
So, really, what's the difference?
Not much. Not much.
The only other difference is their defenseman was suspended for 2 games for the end of the regular season.
Yeah.
And because they had the conference tournament, he got to and by the way, they lost those 2 games.
Yes, they did.
They lost. Chase Prisky was not available for those 2 games against Brown, and they lost.
Yeah.
So these are mirrored teams. The coaches have a great amount of respect for each other.
Absolutely.
And Coach Powers has said many, many times, especially in the first couple of years, this is a program in Quinnipiac that he is really trying to build his program in a very similar fashion. They are trying to copy their model and success almost to a T. And Coach Pecknold, the head coach at Quinnipiac, is the only Division I coach this school has had.
Right. Yeah.
So,
there's a similarity again. It's not quite as long for Coach Powers,
Nope.
but he is Arizona State hockey through and through. So, all right, let's break this down just a little bit. I want to start with the coaching staff. We just talked about Rand Pecknold a little bit. We don't need to get a lot into what he's done. He's been there for a number of years. He's the only coach they've ever had. He's very good at what he does. Now I want to talk about Coach Powers because a lot of people around the country aren't giving him enough credit or are saying that, well, he's coming into this tournament, his first tournament. Let me tell you something. Coach Greg Powers has been through the ringer. He has coached at the ACHA level, which the talent is not the same as NCAA. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is the tournament is extremely difficult to win. He's been in nail-biting situations. He's been in one-and-dones. He's time-tested, battle-tested. He's gotten through it all. There is not a thing that's going to happen in this NCAA tournament that's going to surprise him, confuse him, break him down, worry him. He's got it all down. Let me tell you how comfortable he is, Paul. Here's what he told me today. I said, what are you going to do, Coach, when you play in this very last game? He said, well, here's our game plan. We're going to fly in on Thursday night. We're going to drop our bags, and we're going to go back to the hotel and get something to eat, and we're going to good night sleep. We're going to get up in the morning. We're going to watch hockey. I said, what? He said, yep, we're gonna enjoy watching the whole thing. We're going to take in the whole thing as it's going to be just a bunch of fun, right? He said, we're going to do our practice on Friday. We're going to do the media stuff. We're going to go back and we're going to watch more hockey. And we're going to get up Saturday morning. We're going to eat breakfast and we're going to watch more hockey. So he and the team intend to watch nearly every game, if not every game that's played before them. So that tells you you're a pretty loose group when you feel that way.
Is the coach stealing my notes? Because I think I thought that's kind of what I had planned.
Yeah.
He must be. Does the coach have a microphone or a camera around here somewhere? Listen, why not? I mean, soak it all in. As an outsider, as a supporter, I know I kind of have gone back and forth, teetering that line here between fan and media and supporter and stuff, and I get that. But that's what I'm doing. I'm enjoying. I want to get there as early as I can, and enjoy as much of the experience of being around this tournament as much as I can. Because take, for example, say they come back next year and they win 25 games and go to the NCAA tournament again. You know what next year won't be?
The first.
It won't be the first time. That's
Right.
exactly. There will never be another first time
Yep.
to make the NCAA tournament, and that's for the players, that's for the community, and the fans as well. And so, hopefully, that's what the fan base is doing. I know that the supporters, the alumni, and a whole bunch of people surrounding the program are having a get-together starting late Saturday morning, going not quite till game time, but
Almost.
almost till game time. It'll almost be like being back in school and getting ready for a football game back in the 80s, if I
Right?
wanted it to be. But we're not going to do that, obviously. But we're thinking about it.
Excuse me. So anyway, when I took the approach this week about what I wanted to do for College Hockey Southwest Weekly, the show, my thought was I wanted to speak with a freshman, so I chose PJ Morocco. I wanted to speak with a senior, so I took Dylan Holman, and I definitely wanted to have Coach on. And as a special guest host this week, I've got Greg Cameron from CH News, College Hockey News, and doing some stuff for Arizona Rubber as well, because I wanted to get an all-around perspective, and I thought that was a pretty good cross-section. And what was really cool was when I visited with Dylan, you could see how proud he was of just how far this program's come. And I asked him point blank, I said, be honest with me. I said, I know you all have goals, but did you ever think that you were going to be going to the NCAA tournament in any of your years here? And, he said, we always set goals, but we try to set realistic goals. And he said, I think our goal this year was realistic. He said, years past, we've been bumped, and we just haven't been good enough. But he said, I thought this year we were. So then I asked PJ Morocco the same question. I said, did you think as a freshman that you were going to be in this position? He said, I felt good about this team in June. He said, when I got here in June, he said, everybody accepted us like a family. And he said, the older guys have really taken me under their wing and really brought me along, and I felt really comfortable about it. So then I pushed one step farther to PJ. I said, last time we were on this Oceanside ice, we watched you do something pretty spectacular and scoring that game-winning goal in overtime. And I said, does that change your life at all? He said, the older guys won't let me.
Well, I think I remember that. That was a long time ago.
Let me tell you,
I'm getting
Paul,
old. My memory's shot.
That team was AIC, who was the last team into the tournament and playing the number 1 seed St. Cloud State.
I'm going to say this, and I know we'll get to these things along the line. I think for the most part, and I don't want to slight AIC, but let's try to be a little bit realistic.
Yeah.
There might be 10 different teams that can win this tournament.
Yep.
That doesn't mean they're all equally as favored to win the tournament.
Right.
But there could be 10 to 12 different teams that could win this tournament. Having not followed as closely before the ASU days, there is a ton, and I mean a ton, of great goalies in this year's tournament.
This might be the best ever batch of goaltenders. I
mean, honestly, if Primo at Northeastern, or Kiley at Clarkson, or Shepard again at UMD, or
DeCord.
I'm trying to remember the guys that I can't remember.
Shortridge.
If any of these guys ripped off 4 great games in a row and carried their team to a national championship, would anybody really be surprised? I don't think so. There's probably, what would you say, there's 8 goalies in this tournament that will probably play in the NHL?
Yeah, I'd say you're probably right.
I mean, come on. I mean, listen, I'm going to say it right now, especially watching these conference tournaments. To me, your old stomping grounds up there in Duluth, that team reminds me, gives me that vampire vibe where they're not dead until they're dead.
Right.
And they're still the champs until somebody beats them. I don't know if that's going to happen. I really don't. I'm not saying it can't happen, because there were times where St. Cloud in that NCHC final was over them and all over them for 5 and 7 minute stretches, and they kept forgetting that the guy in the net has already won a national championship.
Right.
And I'm just sitting there watching that game and watching Duluth is just kind of la-di-da-di-da-di-da-di-da. Oh, it's the end of the game here. We'll tie the game up. Oh, we'll win in overtime. Yeah, no problem. And that's kind of the vibe they give me.
They're a confident group of players, I'll tell you that. Let's quickly jump into the regions, and then we'll wrap up with ASU's region. But St. Cloud State, the number one seed in the West, taking on AIC. I think we both feel that St. Cloud State's going to dominate that one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you know, this is they've gotten almost to the point where they call this the Air Force spot.
Yeah,
Air Force has come out of Atlantic hockey so many times, and pulled 2 or 3 upsets of the number one seed. So I don't want to sit here and say that it's not possible. It's not going to happen.
No,
it's not. It's not. St. Cloud might get beat this tournament, but it's not going to be by ASC.
No. And then the bottom bracket there is Denver, the number 2 seed against Ohio State. Ohio State is sputtering at best right now. Denver's not
they haven't
playing
played in almost a month either.
Right. So I'm leaning this one towards Denver. I just think Ohio State sputtered themselves out. I mean, I thought we should have beat them twice early in the season. I think they're a little bit overrated if you want to throw that out there, and I'll probably get some feedback from that. But I think Denver wins. I think it's Denver, St. Cloud State in the West, and I think St. Cloud State advances to the Frozen Four.
Yeah, I think thoughts? Your buddy Tim down in about 150 miles south is going to have a little problem with you. But
well,
listen,
it is what it is. I can't help it.
If ASU had played Ohio State, maybe. Well, see, but they all call it the turning point of the season, though. Because they went into that game expecting to win and were disappointed when they lost. They all say that to a man. So, but when ASU played BU, the guys calling the game on the video stream for BU kept saying ASU plays pond hockey. Well, I got news for those people, and they should be. I don't want to say. I want it to be like, have you watched a Big Ten game?
Right.
Go look up the definition of shinny. And that's what a Big Ten game has been all season long, outside of when Notre Dame plays, because those teams don't play any defense at all.
Right.
And I agree with you. I have St. Cloud going to the Frozen Four out of that bracket.
Okay, so let's go from west to east. Let's go to Minnesota State and Providence in the East Regional at the Dunkin' Donuts Center in Providence. Minnesota State, Providence, way too one-sided for me on that one. We saw Minnesota State. We saw those guys. We saw not their coach, but we saw their goaltender, and he's a good one.
Good goalie. One of the guys we're talking about, and they are flying high right now. They had 2 extra attacker goals in their conference tournament final against Bowling Green, and won the game. And I don't know how. I don't know if anybody's seen the video of those.
Right.
Too late. I don't know how they went in.
I don't know either.
I don't know how they went in. I'm like, what? How did they go in? But they did, and they won about 90 seconds into overtime. Good for them. This is a big tournament for them because, as any of their fans will tell you, the weight of expectations is sitting heavy on their shoulders, having gotten to this tournament a bunch and not won.
Yep. So, well, keep in mind a couple of things. There's a lot of weight, but if you look at where they play, I'm not going to downgrade the WCHA, but it's not necessarily the strongest conference year in and year out. So for Minnesota State to win that conference and get an automatic bid into the tournament is nothing really surprising. Not to take anything away from them. We saw them. They're a good team. They're going to play well, but Arizona State tied them and should have beaten them here. Did beat them, actually.
Definitely. You could make that argument. But I mean, they were clearly the best team in that conference.
Yep.
They were the most consistent. Some of the other teams stumbled, and there were a lot of high hopes for Northern Michigan at the start of the season, but those didn't pan out. So Minnesota State was clearly the best team in that league, and they're a good team. Let's make
that clear.
Yeah.
All right, so the lower half of that bracket is number 2 Northeastern against number 3 Cornell. here comes, if you want to call it an upset, here comes the upset. I like Cornell. I think they're a really strong team. I think they take care of Northeastern, and I think it's Minnesota State and Cornell. And I think that one could be a real battle. I would not be a bit surprised to see Cornell, the number 3 seed, knock off Minnesota State, the number 1 seed. So my pick to the Frozen Four is Cornell.
I see. I would have to disagree with you there.
That's why we're doing this.
I know. I'm not at this point. I'm not going to pick against Caden Primo. He wasn't the starting goaltender in the World Junior Championships for no reason.
All right.
And I think that's their big thing. And I'm picking Northeastern to not only win that game against Cornell. I got them going to the 4.
Okay, I'll go with that. Let's jump over to the Northeast Regional. We've got UMass, the number 1 seed, against Harvard, the number 4 seed. What about UMass? Were they really as good as they think, or are they falling quickly? I see what you're saying. I see it.
They have the best player.
Yep.
They have the best player in Cale McCarr. Here's something, and I can't take credit for it. I got this from the College Hockey News guys. Their record on non-Olympic size sheets is not very good.
They need the big ice.
They need the big ice. And I'm going with Harvard in that game.
I am too. We agree on that one.
There's one of the ones that's going to go down, and you look at the matchups, that's the one.
Yep, I agree. So the bottom half of that bracket is Clarkson, Notre Dame. Clarkson's number 2, Notre Dame's number 3. I'm going Clarkson. I like their goaltender. I like their size. I like Nico Sturm.
I love him. Kel Morris is as good as one of those goaltenders on this list. And honestly, I hope for Harvard and UMass it is the second game in that first round. I don't know. Is anybody going to score in that game? Because they might go 6 or 7 overtimes in a scoreless tie. Because those teams are big-time, strong defensive teams. And, I mean, Notre Dame is the only team in the Big Ten that played any defense. And I don't know if anybody's going to score. I'm just going with Clarkson because they might be a little bit bigger and more physical than Notre Dame, but I don't really think they are. And that's more just a hunch and maybe some personal bias because I love the way they played when we saw them in the Desert Classic.
Right.
But I don't know if there's a lot of difference. Both coaches are really, really good. And they've both been in these situations. And I just, honestly, there wasn't anything to pick from between these two teams. Once again, we're talking about another matchup where these teams are mirrors. And I flipped a coin. It came up Clarkson.
All right. So Clarkson, and you got Clarkson, Harvard. I've got Clarkson, Harvard. I've got Clarkson going to the 4.
I got to change mine then because we can't be agreeing this much because I have Clarkson going there too. So
yeah, I do too. And then let's go to the Midwest Regional, which still shocks me. The Midwest Regional is in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
I'm not complaining.
And no, I know you're not. So number 1 seed Minnesota Duluth against Bowling Green. I think that's a mismatch right from the start. Minnesota Duluth is gonna steamroll them, I'm afraid. And then I don't even know if we can talk about that. Defending champions going in. They had a big win in the conference tournament to beat the number 1 team in the country in St. Cloud State. They're just peaking at the right time. I'm not surprised. I know Scott Sandelin. I know how he builds his team. He came from North Dakota. North Dakota built their teams the same way. You get better at the end of the season. You get stronger at the end of the season. So enough said. Minnesota Duluth is there. Quinnipiac and ASU. I want your prediction, Paul Hornstein.
I got to put my glasses on. Hold on a second. Let me get my maroon and gold glasses and put them on.
Okay, this is the journalistic side right now. This is the analyst side. Don't go with your heart. Don't go with your alumni. Go with your. You'll hear this tomorrow when I talked to Greg Cameron today, and we both did our predictions. That he's an ASU alum and I am not. I'm going to tell you mine, and then you tell me yours. I think ASU not only beats Quinnipiac.
I just think right now they have a chip on their shoulders.
I think they have a huge chip.
I think that they have such a bad taste in their mouths from the last two games of the season. I think that they're obviously not fighting the flu bug.
Right.
They're getting Johnny Walker back. Honestly, I think if they survive the first 5 to 7 minutes of this game, and they're not gripping their sticks too hard because they're too excited, I think they win the game. Like I said.
Oh, that's really hurting you, though. You're really struggling on this one, aren't you?
I'm not. I'm juggling on it because I'm fighting the journalist /
analyst
fan, and I'm just and listen. Will I be bitterly disappointed as an alum if they lose this game? Yeah, for a while. Do I think they can win? I really think this game is a coin toss. So I'm gonna hedge my bets and I'm gonna take my lumps. You know, if they were playing, say, Duluth in the second round, I might not feel the same way.
But, but they will be. They will be facing Duluth in the second round.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. But I just, you know,
just spit out the three letters ASU.
I just, you know, I don't have the deciding factor is my emotions because they're mirror images of each other, and I can't pick against them in this first game. I just can't.
All
even
right. If we're there. I said ASU as well. Okay, and I'm not an alum. I'm looking at them from what I've seen. I've seen this team since June. I know how they've practiced. I know how they look every day. They're going to win this game. And then they're going to face Minnesota Duluth, of which I'm an alum, and I love Scott Sandelin, and I love what he's done with that program. But you're hearing it first right here. They're going to overlook ASU. And Joey DeCourt is going to steal the win to go to the Frozen Four. Write it down. Talk to me on Monday about it, and then we'll go from there.
Listen, if that happens, I won't have to drive to Buffalo.
Right? You just fly there?
I would just fly there. As a matter of fact, I would probably
without
fly down by you without a plane and join them. I can't. This is not picking between them and Quinnipiac. I just have seen too much Duluth, especially in the second half of the season, when I have access to a few more games actually on a television as opposed to a computer screen. And like I said, they're the champs until somebody beats them, and they don't die. They just don't go. They just don't die. And I don't know if I can honestly say that they can beat Duluth at this time. You know, if this was the second year they're in the tournament, maybe that battle testedness would help them. Do I think that they can't win the game if they get to that matchup? No, I think they can. I just don't think they will. If it comes to that, I just don't think. And they might.
For the record,
and listen, when I get up there over the weekend, somebody might see this and be like, "Traitor." I can't help it. I don't want to do that. It's just I'm trying to be realistic, and I don't. Honestly, don't see anybody beating Duluth.
Yeah. Well, good call. As an alum, I pat you on the back.
Thank you.
Let's move on. Raise. So that gives our Frozen Four. St. Cloud. You've got Northeastern, but I've got Cornell. We both have Clarkson, and you've got Minnesota Duluth. I've got ASU in the Frozen Four, which of course is just a couple of weeks away. As we try to wrap things up here before A, I run out of battery, and B, I run out of voice. I've been talking all day long. And we look at this thing and we go, you know, I told everybody at the Desert Hockey Classic, including you, I said, Paul, you need to come out here. You need to come to Arizona for the Desert Classic because we got 4 of the best teams in the country. Let's refresh everybody. Who was in the Desert Classic?
Minnesota State.
Yes.
Clarkson.
Check.
Minnesota Duluth.
Check.
ASU.
Check. Are those four all in the top 16 in the country and in the national tournament right now?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I would say they could all be in the Frozen Four, and I said that this winter. I said this could be a Frozen Four layout. Unfortunately, because ASU and Minnesota Duluth have to eliminate one another, that's not going to happen. But Minnesota State could get in. Clarkson could get in. I mean, that was a heck of a tournament, and people missed out. If you didn't go to that, you missed out on some great hockey. I know there were a couple of coaches missing. I know there were a couple of players missing, with the World Juniors. But by golly, that was at least four of the best goaltenders in the country, without a doubt.
No doubt. Duluth and St. Cloud in the final. Duluth wins again.
Thanks for being such a proud alum for me. Oh yeah, wrong school. Anyway,
it's maroon and gold.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, here's what I'm staking on ASU, and we'll close on this note. This team has beat the odds all season long. They said they couldn't win on the road. They said they weren't going to be able to hang in there all season. They weren't going to travel well. They said they couldn't overcome injuries. They couldn't overcome their penalty situation. Well, I'm interested to see what happens on Saturday night, because Coach Powers told me that he feels like they've eliminated, erased all this penalty issues and all of their discipline issues. He thinks they've grown, they've learned, and they're going to be a much different team than what you saw in Minnesota, certainly, and maybe what you saw against AIC also. They're ready to roll. They know the importance of where they're at, and they know how important it is to stay out of the box, quite simply. PJ Morocco said, I said, has Coach mentioned that to you at all? He goes, you know what? I wouldn't be a bit surprised if there was a banner in the crowd that said, stay out of the box.
I might be the one holding it, too, because
right?
Lord knows I've said that enough.
Oh, you're in the press box. Try to be neutral up there.
Well, I can do it early, and no one will see me. Listen, the first 5 to 7 minutes of that game against Quinnipiac will be the telltale sign. If they're a step behind, if they're chasing the puck and not playing in their position, they're going to get burned. If they do that and start off the game well, that'll just build the confidence even more. And that's really how you have to look at this team after not playing for a month.
Okay, so were you in New York today, or were you listening to Dylan Holman? Because he said exactly that, and you'll hear it tomorrow. He said exactly that. He said, we have to get off to a fast start, and we know it, and we can't dig ourselves a hole, and we know it. And, I joked today because Coach Power said they were in great physical shape and in health, and he said they have been really working out strong with Leanne during this whole time. And it was ironic that the two players that I interviewed came in with their sleeveless shirts. And I called it Sun and Guns Show Off on my Twitter account today, because they were, let's put it this way, some of these boys have gotten bigger. And I'll throw one more final remark at you. I threw out a couple of clips from practice today. Johnny Walker is back. He's healthy. He looks like Johnny Walker. The team feels confident with Johnny Walker. And on top of that, when he's on the ice, and you and I both know this, you must account for him. And even if he doesn't have the puck, you must know where he is. And if you're thinking about him, it opens the door for somebody else. Brinson Pashnuk, Josh Maniscalco, Tyler Bush, Demetrius Kumanzis, Jordan. And I'll tell you this, Jordan Sandu was running a lot with those guys this week in practice. So there's something, a little tidbit to take a look at. And I laugh because the coaches were up in the press box, and leaning over was Coach Hicks, and he was screaming at them, hanging from the rafter, literally, going, telling them everything that they were doing right and wrong. But it was hilarious because he was hanging through the rafter. I'm going like, don't fall out, Coach. We need you.
All right. Well, let's. I got just a couple of quick things, and then we can get out of here. These are just some tournament notes. If anybody gets a chance, not that I'm looking to promote somebody else's stuff, but there was a really good story in The Athletic about from Craig Morgan about this year's team and the start of the program. I highly recommend anybody that's got access to that reading that. ASU and AIC in their first are the two newcomers in this tournament, and I get on the worldwide leaders case a bunch for a lot of different things, but the play-by-play person for the East Regional is Leah Hextall. She is the first female announcer to do play-by-play for the men's hockey tournament, and that we should note that that's big time. And congratulations to her and the two, and obviously as ASU supporters, I'm ecstatic, and congrats to AIC too. And let's play hockey.
All right, we'll see you in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And as our producer, my wife Terry, would say, she said Billy Joel Allentown stuck in her head all week. She needs to turn the radio on to hear something else because it's driving her crazy.
Well, we'll work on that, Terry.
All right, take care, Paul. See you on Friday. We're looking forward to some good reports.
You got it.